Hey brothers, what's up? JK with PornReboot here. Now you may have heard me say that it takes about 1.5 to 2 years to fully rewire your brain from your addiction to pornography and masturbation. And today we're going to be talking about your second year of rebooting and what you can expect. I think this is important to talk about because some men have bought into the idea that you can fix all your problems in 90 days. Now listen, this behavior is something that you probably built up over a period of years. With the right system, in 90 days, yes, you can learn some coping skills, you can begin the rewiring process, some very positive biochemical changes can start happening which make your life easier. But you're still at a risk for relapse until you hit that 1.5 to 2 year period and you are following specific steps over that time. During that time, there are also a few things that you need to be aware of, and I hope this will help you in the long-term aspect of this journey. So the goal in the PornReboot system for your second year of recovery is to repair the damage which has been done over the years by your porn addiction. During your first year, you start to feel a lot better. Most men who are not using a system have been using some sort of combination of willpower, really strong boundaries, and sometimes accountability. And this is where a lot of people who do the whole stop fapping thing live. And for most of these men, their goal is to get to 90 days or 6 months or 1 year. A lot of them do not want to think about what's going to happen over the long run. And this is one of the big mistakes men make, and I've mentioned it before. It is setting a goal and then building up this image of what you think your life should look like at the end of 90 days or after 6 months or after 1 year, because the reality is you've never gotten to 1 year without porn and masturbation. So the only thing you can actually measure are the things that have happened to you in the past. So all you're measuring is your wins from the past. Most men feel amazing in the first year. That's why you'll see a lot of videos with just glowing testimonials of all the amazing things that have happened to them in the first year. Because the first year you're focusing on yourself. However, what happens in the second year is that it gets a little bit tougher. And it gets a little tougher because this is the point where you have to confront a lot of the damage that has been done to your life. The damage that has been done to your relationships, to your social ability, to your brain, your ability to focus, to your self-confidence, maybe even to your employment and other relationships in your life. Some of you out there have lost marriages, you've torpedoed wonderful relationships with women, you have kind of isolated yourself from many amazing people in your life. You've let a lot of opportunities go. And this may have gone on for a couple of months, but for many of you, this has been happening over a period of years. Now you feel good, but what's next? Well, what's next in the second year is starting to address all the damage, to identify it, and then to start working on fixing the things that are broken, which can be fixed, and letting go of the ones which don't need to be. Another thing that we work on in the second year is a lot of the guilt and a lot of the negative labels that we've put on ourselves. See, over the years, before we got to that first year of staying off porn and controlling our behavior with masturbation, we were failing a lot. So we were telling ourselves that we were liars, or that we were frauds, or that we had no willpower, or we were good for nothing, or we were not trustworthy, or that we were not worthy of love. And all those negative labels need to be changed because guess what? You've gotten to 1 year. Yeah, you're doing well, but most men get to 1 year and deep down, their identity is still the identity that was built up when they were a porn addict. And that's not usually the best identity. You know, when I hear men say like, oh, you know, when you stay off porn for 1 year or 6 months, like your self-image will change. It makes me laugh because what has only happened is a small biological change. right? Your self-image is built up by your experiences, the way you respond to them, and largely what you tell yourself, the story that you've been telling yourself in your head. And many men do not address that after the first year. So this is your opportunity to start addressing that and start changing a lot of the negative self-talk and changing your self-image. Speaking of self-image, one of the major beliefs that I have noticed in my clients who get to that 1 year point is that they feel that they have spent so long in their behavior that they are damaged beyond repair. And what I mean by damaged beyond repair is sometimes you feel that you're not worthy of a relationship. You're like, yeah, I've stayed off porn, I've controlled my masturbation, but I still have anxiety when it comes to meeting women. I'm still not as motivated as I thought I would be to chasing my goals and improving my financial situation. I still don't have all those close, intimate relationships that I crave. And this can make you feel that all your years of porn use have damaged you. There's some men who still struggle with remnants of PIED. Like you're recovering from your PIED, but once in a while you experience a little bit of anxiety, or once in a while your penis doesn't work while you're having sex, and this makes you feel like, man, all those years of porn really messed me up. Again, this is mostly a belief, and this is something that you need to focus on in your second year of rebooting. So to help you out, I've broken this down into 8 things that you need to do during the second year of your reboot. The first thing to do is to accept the fact that you are not your addiction. Many men deeply identify with their addiction, especially when you've been obsessed about getting over it, when you've been spending hours in forums, when you've been, counting so much, when you've been journaling and spending a lot of time on your recovery in the first year. You can truly identify with it. And sometimes you can feel that I am that guy. I am that guy who has all these obsessive sexual thoughts about women. I am that guy who has all these strange fetishes. But more often than not, you're not that guy. You've just lived with this for so long that it has become a part of your identity, the identity of an addict. I sometimes have men send me emails and, they say, JK, you're a little bit too harsh. Don't you understand that, porn addicts are this and this? They'll say things like, porn addicts don't know how to manage their finances. Porn addicts have a poor self-image, so they get hurt easily. And all these things are things that they've built up. It's the story they've told themselves about their addiction. But brother, at this point, you are at 1 year. It's time for the story to change. If not, you cannot move forward. That's the first thing. The second thing is to make self-care a non-negotiable. And what I mean by self-care are things like getting enough sleep, things like eating right, things like staying away from drugs, meditating, exercising, living a clean, healthy, balanced life, being around people who rejuvenate you. Those are things which you have to do. And oftentimes you'll find men who get to that 1 year period and they just want to be done with their behavior with porn. They're like, listen, I've gotten to 1 year. I want to put this behind me. And on the other hand, you also have some men who are so excited that they have gotten to this point that they want to catch up with all the things that they've lost in life. So in the process of doing things like starting a business, going out and dating again, all these amazing things that you want to do now that porn is out of your way, sometimes you end up sacrificing self-care. But self-care has to be a non-negotiable. And the easiest way to do that is to structure a time in your day, times in your week, where you focus on self-care. It's very important. The third is to start striving to find balance and health in your life. Now, this is a little bit different from self-care. And what I mean by balance is that when we were struggling with pornography, we spent an inordinate amount of time doing certain things. It's different for different guys. For some guys, they spend a lot of time online, researching how to be an alpha male, or researching how to date women, or researching how to quit porn and stop fapping. Our lives were not balanced. Sometimes we were spending a lot of time isolated. Other times we were spending a lot of our time in a negative headspace. And now it's time to actually stop researching and start going out and doing the things that are important to you and balancing it out. I think it's also important to note at this point that it's very challenging to live a balanced life. The truth is that for most men, there are some things that you may need to sacrifice in your life. And there are some things that you absolutely cannot sacrifice. I'll give you an example. In my coaching program, I speak of the concept of seasons, which means that there's a season for different things and not all seasons mix. What I mean by that is that there is a season to grind really hard and start a business. There's a season to get married and decide to have kids. There is a season to work on changing your physique and lose weight or put on muscle, whatever your goals are. But not all these seasons mix. So for instance, if you decided that you wanted to work a day job and in the evening start a side hustle or some sort of business, that's probably not the right season to also decide that you're going to have a child with your partner. Does that make sense? So learning how to balance things in your life is very important. And for those of you who are in your mid-30s upwards, it is so important to start focusing on your health. The reason why is that oftentimes when you get to that first year, the risk of developing another addiction to deal with some of the pain that you haven't fully worked on during the first year becomes higher. So I see a lot of men who start smoking more. I see a lot of men in their 30s and 40s who develop some sort of eating addiction or something else. So it's very, very important to start prioritizing your health, especially when you're in your 30s and 40s. Men in their 20s can get away with a lot. You still need to take care of your health. But trust me, once you hit your 30s, especially if you're in recovery, you can't play around with that. The fourth is make sure that you are a part of some sort of accountability group. You may not be that active in it, but it's so important to be part of a men's group of some sort that promotes growth and promotes community. Because sometimes when we get to that 1 year period, we go like, you know what, I don't need accountability. I don't want to be talking to all these guys who are still dealing with their problems with pornography. I'm tired of hearing of other guys relapse, right? I've moved so far in my recovery that I just want to be done with that. You don't have to be deeply connected, but it is important to have community. And sometimes that was your only community during that 1 year period. So please stay plugged in your second year, very important. The fifth thing is to develop healthy alternatives to using pornography. Now, oftentimes there's a lot of focus that goes into that first year, especially if you're following a system. There are different things that you're doing. However, as time goes on, you not only want to rewire your brain to not viewing pornography or not getting turned on by high-speed internet pornography, but you also want to find alternatives to pornography. You want to have built up literally an arsenal of different things that you can use when you are experiencing loneliness, when you are stressed out, when you are bored. You want to have a whole lot of things that are now a part of your lifestyle. Not just things you do sometimes, but things that you do all the time, that you enjoy doing. The sixth thing to do in your second year is to start fixing broken relationships. There are some relationships, like relationships with your parents, relationship with your ex, relationships with some friends that were lost during your addiction. And it is time for you to start working on them, because for some of them, you may feel like, well, that's over and done with. But the reality is you may still carry some resentment. And sometimes the only way to let this resentment go is to reach out to that person as you who is a man who is rebooting, a man who is in recovery and reclaiming his life. So that's very important. Let go of a lot of the baggage and fix the relationships that are broken. The seventh thing is to learn how to start getting comfortable with being uncomfortable. And this means that over the next 1 year period, you're still going to face some challenges. You're still going to find out that you struggle with a little bit of anxiety. You're going to find out that life doesn't get any easier because you quit pornography. You're still going to have to face the challenges of life. Sometimes we wonder, why do I still have to deal with anxiety, right? Why do I still feel insecure? Why do I still find it tough to stay motivated and focused on things? Why is it that my sex drive is still fluctuating Why is it that sometimes I still feel down and depressed? By this point, to move into the second year, you can't move into this with the same mindset you had the first time of asking, why me? Why is this happening to me? You need to accept the fact that life is uncomfortable sometimes. Listen, prior to this, when life got uncomfortable, you ran to pornography. Now, you're becoming like everyone else who doesn't have a compulsive disorder, and we deal with discomfort. So learn how to accept that, because if you don't, it's going to bother you, and it will eventually bother you to the point that you go like, listen, I never had to deal with this. It's easier for me to go back to pornography, right? And that can cause you to relapse. And brothers, the 8th thing to do in your second year of rebooting is what I mentioned earlier, which is to start changing all the negative labels you have of yourself. All the things that you have told yourself about who you are as a porn addict, that you are unreliable, that you have no self-discipline, that you're not attractive, that you have a lot of anxiety, that you don't have the ability to whatever, that you don't have the ability to work on a project and complete it, that nobody will love you, that you're a pervert, and if your wife or your partner really knew who you were, they wouldn't love you. It's time to start changing all these things. And finally, to end the behavior of what I call catastrophizing. And this means that anytime something happens to you, you always jump to the worst case scenario. So let's say that you slip once. Instead of accepting it for what it is, finding out what the boundary you crossed was, identifying the self-care that you hadn't been implementing in your life, it just becomes the end of the world. You're like, well, that's it. I might as well relapse because I slipped. I just don't have what it takes to overcome this. Or let's say you get rejected by a woman twice in a row. You invite a woman out for a date and she flakes on you. You invite another woman out and she says she's not interested. It's the end of the world. You're like, well, I'm just not an attractive man. I'm going to be alone forever. I might as well just watch porn. So you get what I'm saying? I hope that's what I mean by catastrophizing. Everything automatically goes to the worst case scenario. This is something that I'm just adding as a bonus because I've noticed that it's very, very common with men who are in their first year of recovery. Something for you to change. And there's actually a great book that I would recommend that can help you with this. And it's a book called A Guide to Rational Living by Albert Ellis, and it's a book on rational emotive behavioral therapy. It's a book that's helped me a lot, and I hope it will help you as well. So that's it, brothers. These are the things to be aware of in your second year of rebooting. Now, if you have more questions, if you're curious about, hey, how do I even get to this second year? What else should I even watch out for? What about year one? What do I do in year one? Then my recommendation is that, and I suggest you join our free Facebook group. There's a link to it in the description below, and it's a place where you can get yourself an accountability partner. You can learn a little bit more about our system, and you can surround yourself with men who are absolutely serious about rebooting. They're not there working on streaks. They're trying to stop counting, and they are there to gain control of their sexual behavior permanently. Brothers, that's what I have for you today. I'm JK, your brother in this struggle. If you found this video helpful, please share it with 3 men whom you feel might benefit from it. And don't forget to subscribe and like the video if you found it beneficial. Have a wonderful day.